Welcome into UGA Football Live with JC Shelton, where the dogs come to talk. What is happening, Dog Nation? Welcome in UGA Football Live. We are getting ready for G-Day. The annual spring game kicks off this week Saturday in Sanford Stadium, 4 p.m. Eastern kickoff. Going to be a great time. Got a really big show for you planned in respect for G-Day. We got Hunter Long, former Georgia offensive lineman. He joins the show. We talk about his recruitment, his career favorite moments as a Bulldog, as well as Masters Week. He was actually on site for that. So if you're a golf fan, which I know a lot of you guys are like me, we get a little inside look at the Masters there, see what's going on and what happened. We all know what happened over the weekend, but we get Hunter Long's take on some things there. And then we jump into an interview with his former teammate and good friend, Keith Marshall. He joins the show from the Players Lounge, and former Georgia great at the running back position. He joins us to talk about some spring football memories for him and what these young running backs might be going through. So great show for you guys planned. And I do want to kick it off with a few things that happened, or at least I want you to keep updated on. Let's touch first on Ellis Williams out of Folkston, Georgia, five-star recruit, five-star athlete. It's intriguing for a couple of reasons, his commitment to Georgia this past week. He's in the 2025 class. He's 6'7", 235 pounds as a junior. Huge, a beast. And number two, he's not only rated as the number one tight end by On3 Sports, he's rated as the number one edge by 24/7 Sports. So who knows what he's going to play, but I think one indication on what he's going to play in Athens is Todd Hartley, Georgia's tight end coach, is actually his primary recruiter. So we could be seeing Williams line up at tight end, which gives Georgia another Darnell Washington-esque type of player, type of body at that position, which Georgia was able to use so well over Darnell Washington's time. So big moves there in that recruiting class and in 2025 class, which is number one, by the way. And this kid is an absolute stud. I can't wait to see Williams in the red and black. Also, 2024 class, Georgia recently gained a pledge from four-star safety DeMelo Jones, 6'1", 176. He's out of Swainsboro, rated as a number 7 safety in the class, number 18 player in Georgia per 24/7. Also in the 24 class, 3-star O-lineman Malachi Tolliver committed to Georgia, 6'5 and a half, 315 pounds, rated as the number 88 O-line in the nation. So Georgia's still making moves in the recruiting class. Number 1 and 24, number 1 and 25, like I said, no signs of slowing down. Off of 2 national titles, NFL, modern NFL record last year, right? The way that Kirby Smart's able to not only plug championships as a reason to come to Georgia recently, but also his ability to prepare players for the NFL, the next level. And this is where these guys want to go. They're coming to Georgia. They want to go to the NFL most times, like 99% of the time, right? So what better place? And Kirby Smart has really, I think, plugging that. And he doesn't have to do much talking now because it's everywhere. I mean, it's going to be the Georgia draft show in late April. We'll definitely get into that when time comes. And then the national championships and what that does for recruiting. It's a big weekend, too, this weekend at G-Day. For these recruits, a bunch of marquee recruits are going to be in town. Head over to Twitter to see those updates. I've liked a lot of those to keep you guys updated on that and who's going to be in Athens. Now, without further ado, let's get in. Also, wait. One thing I want to mention, I just thought of this, is these are interviews that you're about to see were recorded at different times. And this is recorded at a different time. So I'm pretty sure I rocked 3 different hats during this whole show, which is, I think, impressive. One, the hat game. So take a peep at that for your boy. And also, I love this profession because I can not do my hair and just throw a cool hat on and go with it. So completely unrelated note. But now, without further ado, here is former Georgia offensive lineman Hunter Long. And, Hunter Long is kind of fate, I think, because we scheduled this with Hunter, and then he happens to be at the Masters this week, all week, and I can't wait to chop it up with him about the Masters and Georgia football. Hunter, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, first of all. And yeah, it's a big week, big week down here in Augusta. I got to go in on Monday actually, so I enjoyed that. And I'm down here all week with my company, and we get to play golf during the week at the River Club here in Augusta, and then we're taking customers into the Masters, and we have a house down here, so it's a really good time. It's a fun event, but yeah, I mean you can't beat Augusta in April.
No, I could hear the music in my head already. I'm gonna go. Well, after we get done here, I'm gonna go turn it on. I hear that famous intro music,
Oh yeah,
and we'll get started.
yeah.
What's that weather look like out there right now?
Oh my goodness! Yesterday we played golf and I got burnt. Yesterday I want to say it was 86 and sunny yesterday.
Mhm.
It was beautiful on Monday, the day I got to go in the tournament. Um, but yeah, yesterday it was getting close to 90, and today it's a little overcast, and I think it may have rained overnight. But yeah, I think they were calling for rain today, and then maybe again Sunday. I think it was like 100% over the weekend.
Yeah, no, that's
But
gonna be interesting. I kind of
yeah,
like it. I kind of like it. Soft conditions and make these guys really work for it. And let's
right.
talk about picks real quick. I put a few plays in yesterday. And I really like Scotty or Cameron Smith first round. Not sure
Yeah.
why. I like Rory too. I heard some talk about Rory in soft conditions, and then
Hmm.
like Shane Lowry in soft conditions. Those
Right.
European guys are do so well on those types of days. What are you thinking? What are
Yeah.
you feeling like, man?
I mean, it's going to be hard to beat Scotty, I think, but I pull for Rory just because such a good person for the game, and I enjoy watching him play, and he seems to do everything right, and he obviously has not won here in Augusta, so I think I'm pulling for him to win, but I think it's going to be hard to beat Scotty, and I mean, there's a whole nother conversation about the live guys. So I think there's going to be some big competition between those guys and the PGA, maybe unspoken competition about we can't let the live guys win this tournament.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think
I
that'll
think
be
so.
interesting to see how that plays.
Yeah, it's gonna be
But,
really cool to see that live and PGA kind of mix there.
right.
Yeah, getting a call real quick. Oops. All right. Anyway, let's move on to what we're here for and a little Georgia
Yeah,
football.
absolutely.
And I kind of want to open it up. I kind of usually do this when we have first time guests and just hear about your recruitment. And what that process was like for you, and when you chose that that Athens was going to be your home and you were going to be a Georgia Bulldog. What was that like for you, man?
Yeah, so I had a little different recruitment than most people, I would say, just because. So my brother Austin Long played tackle at Georgia, and he was 2 years older than me, so I kind of got to do the whole recruiting thing with him because I was in eighth grade, ninth grade. In the year he was graduating from high school and then going to Georgia, so I got to travel around a lot with him, and he was a very highly ranked tackle coming out of Tennessee. He was Mr. Football for Tennessee. So I got to kind of travel around. He had, I forget how many offers he had, but just about everywhere in the country. And so my dad took us to basically every school we wanted to go to, and did the what is it, unofficial visits, and meeting all the coaches, touring the campuses. So I had a good feel before my recruitment even really started, of where I wanted to go, where I didn't want to go. And so when my brother chose Georgia, um, it was hard to then, because right around that time I had started getting recruited a little bit by some local schools, Memphis, Tennessee, places like that, because I'm from Memphis originally. And so as I started to get recruited, I was spending more and more weekends traveling to go see my brother Austin. So I was in Athens more than most people would be during recruiting, just seeing him. And so, I mean, it was hard to not choose Georgia because you get in with all the players already. The coaches. They've been to your house. They have a good connection to your family and things like that. So it felt like home, obviously. Because I mean, my brother was there, and so it was interesting it would have been hard for me to go anywhere else. So I still wanted to do the full recruitment and make sure that's where I wanted to go. But and I did not get an offer from Georgia until my junior year. So I was going to camps, things like that, and then I think it was a junior day that I got my offer from Coach Searles and Coach Rick, and so I pretty much committed on the spot. Um, I didn't really. I mean, after thinking about it and being down there in Athens, it's. I mean, it's hard to turn down.
Yeah, I feel like that's a common theme with you former Georgia Bulldogs, and it's kind of interesting to me that you came from that really, an SEC football hub in Tennessee right there. I know you're from Memphis, but there's a lot of good football around there. Was there anything else other than, kind of the home aspect you just brought up, with your brother involved and you being here a lot that kind of contributed to you picking over, staying in your home state? Was there any pull to stay in your home state and play?
There was my funny story. My dad was not a big Tennessee fan, and so I don't know what it was. I was actually kind of a
It's that god awful orange
fan. He was.
It's that god awful orange.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I guess it was a rebellion phase, right, where I liked Tennessee for a little bit, and Austin actually had that with Florida. He was a Florida fan for a little bit here in the Tebow years. Which it was kind of hard to dislike him, but we did not have any ties to Georgia before Austin started getting recruited. We did not know much about it. We obviously knew Mark Richt and the legends that have played there, but we didn't know a lot of the traditions and things like that. And so it was interesting as we were there more, starting to understand the traditions and how special of a place it is. And there was a decent pull. I mean, during those years, Tennessee was going through a lot of changes, obviously. I mean, it was Fulmer, then I think Dooley, Kiffin. Those may have been flipped. But I actually received an offer from Tennessee my sophomore year, I believe. And then during the coaching change, they actually pulled the offer back. They did that with, I think it was like the 4 or 5 players in Tennessee. We met with it was Dooley had offered, and then Kiffin, when he came in, or it may have been vice versa, came in and said, we're wiping the slate clean. We're going to start with who we want to recruit. And as of now, we do not have any offers out for anyone. So basically telling us, you guys do not have offers. So that turned me pretty quick.
Oh,
I was like, all right. Yeah, if you guys don't want me, then I don't want to be here. Yeah. So, but I was not as highly ranked as my brother was. And so I didn't have the amount of options. So the second that Georgia offered, I jumped on it.
Yeah. And the rest is history. And we got to see you in action. And it stands out to me the time that you played in, because a lot of your former teammates have been on the show. So I've heard a lot of good stories about those teams and the matchups and the big games you played in. First off, just is there one that, stands out in your mind when you think back? Maybe you have a dream about every now and then about a moment in a game, anything like that? Because you had played in some big ones, absolutely big ones, right? SEC championship, big time, non-conference games.
Yeah, I think the one that stands out, the memory I always go back to, is my first big game playing in was my freshman year, and it was a game that none of us second string guys at that time thought we were going to play, and it was Georgia Auburn, and that's obviously a huge rivalry, and we had one of the best offensive lines. Some of the most talented guys. Ben Jones, Cordy Glenn, Justin Anderson. We were stacked at offensive line. So we were freshmen, and me, David Andrews, Watts Dantzler, those guys, we were not thinking we were going to get in that game. And we go up by, I want to say the final score was 45-10 or something like that. And so Coach Friend at the time, offensive line coach, came over to us and was like, y'all get ready, y'all are going in. And we had not played in a big game like that where the stadium's full. We had played in some of the smaller games where kind of the fans have trickled out and it's not, a roaring stadium. But we got to play in that one for a little bit of the fourth quarter. And that was awesome because we were not expecting it. And it was our first real experience of getting in and playing in Sanford Stadium. That's one I always go back to. But you're right. There's a lot of big games that come to mind. I think my first game starting, that was a dream come true. That's something that I worked for a long time and took a while, but when I got to it, it was Georgia Southern, 2015, and it went into a couple overtimes and we came out on top, but that was a fun game. But it was senior night and got my first start. So that's one that is probably the top memory for me.
I like that. That's awesome. As far as SEC goes, And it was
Mhm.
kind of interesting you brought up Ben Jones there. I just wrote a story for the Players Lounge, and that's Aaron Murray's company. And those guys had a great interview and wrote a
Right.
story on that. Some crazy story between those two guys as the quarterback and center duo there. And Ben Jones was just an animal when you think about when Aaron Murray tells these stories, man. He brought some dreadlocks back to the huddle, hung them on his ceiling fan.
Yeah, I was going to say they were on a ceiling fan. I remember seeing that.
Wow. I mean, if I'm a quarterback, I'll want him, but if I'm a defensive lineman, I don't want to see that guy. But they brought up a commonality between them was the hate for Auburn. So as a guy from Tennessee, I wanted to find out, is it Tennessee? Is it Auburn? What is maybe your number one SEC team you don't like to play, but you like when you beat them? You know what I mean? Your most hated SEC team.
I would say Tennessee for me. Not them pulling that off. That was always personal for me, and so I strongly dislike them. Auburn is one that we had some great games, obviously, against Auburn, and that is a fun stadium to play in, and so I always enjoyed that rivalry. The disdain though wasn't as much for me as it was for like a Florida or a Tennessee, because there's something about the Florida game because it's a neutral site, so it's a different game. The prep is different, and so those two to me are, I mean, Coach Rick always had Rocky Top playing all week at practice, so you did not want to hear that band start up that song during the game. So that was always a big motivation for the defense to not let them play that song.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that from Rick, and I hope Kirby does that as well because that song is god awful as well, just like the Orange. Oh my goodness, it's bad. That's funny.
But that's a tough stadium though, Neyland Stadium. That's it gets loud.
That's one thing about it too. And Georgia's played well there recently, so we hope we can keep that going this year. It's going to be a big game. I expect Tennessee to doing pretty well when Georgia comes to town. The players you play with, some really big name guys, some guys who are still playing in the league right now, and at the running back position, played with some great ones, some all timers at Georgia. Absolutely. Is there one? It's probably going to be hard for you to pick one. But,
definitely.
But from all around football, I'm talking out of the backfield as a receiver, inside the tackle, outside the tackle, pass protection. Who's your favorite? Was that guy who stands back there and you felt the best about in every play?
God, there's so many different dynamics because, I mean, Keith, if you give him an inch, he's gone. I mean, no one's catching him on the field. And so he's obviously a fun one. Todd, I mean, can't say enough things about Todd. I mean, he's one that I remember. I think Coach Bobo would always say, "Get 3 beating his chest," because when he jumps up from the pile and starts beating his chest, you knew we're going to keep giving him the ball, and it was over from there.
Yeah.
So Todd, I mean, but Nick, Sony, and coming in, we had Isaiah Crowell in my class. He was special for sure. But yeah, they're so different because, I mean, Sony and Nick, that was an unbelievable duo. People ask a lot, who was the better duo, Keith and Todd or Sony and Nick, and that I can't answer that. I have no idea. But I mean, because they're such different backs. Nick is just the power. I mean, he's an every down back, and I mean, Sony is an every down back as well. But he was the more agile, sweep guy, and Nick was pounding it through the middle and stuff like that. So they're so different. It's hard to pick one, but I mean, Todd was a special one for sure.
Yeah. And that's funny you bring up the two duos because, obviously Gershel was something special. And the first time we kind of saw that in the modern Georgia era was those two tailbacks going at it and really taking the majority of the carries and production was off the charts. But then, Sony and Nick, the best duo of all time when you look at the stats and what they were able to produce. So different backs, but similar productions. And it's really interesting to look at.
It's so interesting because, I mean, and at one time, I mean, they were in the same running back room. I mean, Sony, Nick, Todd, Keith. I mean, even Brendan Douglas. I mean, there was some great backs there, all in the same room. And I mean, that was for Coach McClendon. I'm sure that was tough. Who's starting? Who do I go to?
Exactly. Just a wealth
He had
of
a lot of
riches.
options.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good problem to have.
And then as far as Georgia defensive linemen, you play with a lot of good ones too. It's like Georgia's been a kind of a factory since that era as well in the NFL. Who was that guy you hated going up against in practice, man? That just maybe they talked a lot of trash, but maybe they took your money here and there.
Wake up. I still wake up with cold sweats thinking about my freshman year. That defense, the 2011 defense. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone, all 11 starters, played at least a snap in the NFL, which is unheard of. And so, that my freshman class aligned, and me, Watts, David, coming in, and because during that, I don't know if they still do this, but the twos would go against the ones, so that we were the number 2 offense, so we'd be going against every day in practice the number 1 defense. And I mean, from the guys that we were going against, whether I was usually at guard and David was at center, so I mean we're blocking Avery Jones, Jarvis Jones, Ogletrees, Christian Robinson, Mike Gilliard. I mean, they were absolutely stacked. And I think probably the toughest one that I had to go against was when it was, I mean, God, the names keep coming to my mind, is John Jenkins, Kwame Gathers, Derek Lott. Derek Lott he was special for sure. D'Angelo Tyson. So I would say probably the 2 toughest my freshman year were D'Angelo Tyson and Avery Jones, because it was, depending on where they were, what the defense was called, I was blocking Avery, or if he switched to the other side, I was blocking D'Angelo. And that was not a fun year for me.
I bet not.
Guys, man. They were seniors, I believe, and yeah, we were freshmen, and it helped us a lot, I would say, going against those guys, but at the time it was not fun.
I bet not, dude. Waking up every morning and having to go block those huge mammoths of guys coming at you, coming after your quarterback, your running backs, I bet. I can't blame you.
Yeah.
And let's move on here to the national championships as a former Bulldog. What was your experience like last year? The year before that, sorry, the first one.
Yeah.
The first one in 42 years, something that Georgia's been trying to get over, and your team, got so close as well there in 2012 and had a chance at it. We've been taking down Alabama, and we all know how that turned out.
Yeah.
What was that experience like for you, man? And just, how kind of Georgia's kept the domination over the last 2 seasons.
That is, and Alabama, that to me, that's the most impressive thing about Alabama, is how they'll lose, key players, key coaches, and they keep dominating. And so that's what I think is so impressive is, 2 years ago, we lost a ton of key players. Yeah. And the year before that, we had lost, Sony, Nick, and all those guys, and some huge pieces to that team, and just as dominant, if not more dominant. And seeing that, that's how that Kirby's building something extremely special, or already has, but it will continue will continue to be dominant, is, not dropping off when you lose those key players, and, having the leaders in the room and in the locker room to set the standard very high and to maintain that. And that's something that, not a lot of programs can do, because you'll see like a team win a national championship and the next year they're 6-6 or whatever it is. And, what happened to those guys? It's, they don't have those leaders in the room, it seems like. And Kirby's been able to develop those guys, and it's been special to watch. But being able to, I was sitting at home in my living room watching that game, the first national championship, and it was really special. I just kind of sat there. I couldn't believe it, and, so happy for those guys, because, it's obviously been a long time, and I know they put in the work, and it was special to see it finally come to fruition.
Yeah, that first one was so special. Just the length between the time between the last one we won, and then how it was done, and how it was kind of unexpected from the 2020 season, because that was a mess when you look back at it, because of expectations and talent, and then the quarterback situation kind of threw Georgia in a weird spot. But I think I agree. As a writer, and on a yearly basis, leading up to spring practice, leading up to fall practice, we're talking about questions. We have a question at cornerback. We have a question at offensive tackle, maybe, just for example, right? So how are they going to reload from 15 NFL record draft picks in 2021? Oh, they're just going to go 15-0, not just contend, be the best team by far in college football. That's what's so impressive. I agree. And let's see if Georgia can do it again. The recruiting classes are there, and the schedule lines up very nicely in the regular season this year, but it's all about the playoffs. We know that. So it's going to be really, really fun to watch this year. And I don't know what to do myself as such a winner the last 2 years. It's new territory. So we're trying to learn as we go here. But Hunter, we'll let you out of here, man. I'll let you get to the Masters week for you. Kind of jealous, but I'll be watching, man. We'll be tuning in. We really appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed it. Good conversation, and I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, yes, sir. Well, take care, guys. Check him out, Hunter Long, on Twitter as well. What's your tag, buddy?
HLong73.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we'll be tagging you up so those guys can find you and see where you're at. And we'll follow along with your Masters if you give us some updates. We appreciate your time. Everybody go Dogs. Absolutely. Take care.
Go Dogs. Thank you for having me.
We got a double dipping episode here. Special guest, friend of the show, Keith Marshall, former Georgia running back. You know him, you love him. One of the best to wear the red and black in that position. Keith, we really appreciate you jumping on here. I know you're a busy guy. Keith's now working with the Players Lounge. And if you haven't checked them out yet, guys, head over there. I'm blessed to be able to help out with the Players Lounge and their Georgia site recently. Got a lot of good stuff, exclusive interviews, and Aaron Murray has some great calls with some former Georgia Bulldogs as well as current Georgia Bulldogs who have a lot on their plate coming up in the fall. So it's really great. Discussions they have and some inside information you're not going to find anywhere else. So they have that access. So check them out, Players Lounge. And Keith, first off, how you doing? And I think you got something going on Saturday that we need to hear about.
Absolutely. Well, listen, man, I appreciate the warm introduction and always enjoy joining the show for a little bit. I think the other special guest was Hunter Long, correct?
Yeah,
which is a good friend. I was in his wedding. He's going to be in my wedding. He's a Georgia legend in his own right. So I'm glad you got a chance to connect with him. Yeah, man, things with the Players Lounge are going. We're excited. Obviously, you've been a part of it, and you've been a huge help. This weekend in Athens, G-Day, we're excited. We're having our second annual tailgate there at Creature Comfort. So, be free food, drinks, time for kids, family, opportunity to meet some lettermen. Really just show people what we're doing with the Players Lounge in support of our current student athletes. So we're super excited. We invite everybody to come out.
Yeah, I like it. Now, it looks like the weather for now is okay, but you never know with Georgia. But that's always a good place to be on Saturday in Athens. You can make your way downtown from there. So check us out there, guys. And you can sign up at Players Lounge, like I just said.
And let me shout out some special guests. I missed the mark, but we'll have Jake Fromm's going to be there, Nakobe Dean, Chris Smith. I'll be there. John Theus, Muhammad Massaquoi will stop by. So there's going to be some what we'll call DGDs that will be in attendance for sure.
Yeah, I love those guys. Grew up watching them, and they'll be in Athens. So check them out, guys. Let's get to G-Day here, the game itself, and kind of some preparations for it as well, because there's some storylines that stand out to me here, and one of those is running back. Obviously, your expertise, but Kendall Milton, he just can't get away from the injury bug, I feel like. And, sure enough, this offseason goes through a hamstring injury. It's going to hold him out, I'm guessing, as precaution, because you don't want to get him any further injury, right? Because he's going to have such a big role in the fall as an upperclassman in that tailback position. So now we have Daijun Edwards, who also went through an undisclosed injury this spring. We're not sure how healthy he is, but he's been limited in practice. So really, Branson Robinson is right there. Freshman last year had some really gash plays in that backfield for Georgia. Going to see a lot of him on Saturday. And then the true freshman, Roderick Robertson, comes in. I've heard a lot of good things about him and his pad level, how he runs hard. Man, what is it like when you have one of your star guys, or maybe during an offseason when one of those guys goes out and all of a sudden, boom, you're there and you're taking a lot more reps with the ones?
I can guarantee you they're going through it right now in spring ball because, you have low numbers and the reps are heavy. Obviously, spring ball is much more competitive than like practice during the season because you don't have to, preserve your body down the line. So I'm sure those younger guys get an opportunity to show what they can do. Hopefully, I know Kendall's been injury bitten a little bit. I went through that. So I'm hoping that he's able to get healthy for the season. And same with Edwards. I think obviously knowing what those guys can do, the coaches are unlikely to push them. They kind of know what they have there. Want to make sure they're healthy when camp comes around. So, Saturday will be a great opportunity for those young guys to show what they're made of. To your point, we saw a little bit of Robinson last year. He's obviously a great runner, explosive, gas guy. I think he has an opportunity to really take over this year and show what he can do in a bigger role. And then similar to you, the freshman, I think he tore his ACL last year, correct, Rod?
No, so that's Andrew Paul, actually. Right now, Roger Robertson's coming out of that 2023 class.
Okay, so he's fresh. He's fresh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it'd be awesome for him to get a chance to get in there early, get familiar with the offense, and showcase a little bit. Also, be his first time playing in between those hedges in front of people. So I'm sure he'll be giddy about that experience.
Yeah, I can only imagine as a young kid, right? I mean, I'm not sure how old he is, 17, 18, coming in, early enrollee, right? So a super young guy coming in a university full of people who've already been here for a semester at least. So you obviously no experience there as a student. And then on football side, you're getting a lot of reps now, and you got to prepare for a game in front of, it's going to be 54,000 with the construction going on, not 93, but still a lot of people in Sanford Stadium, maybe a bigger environment probably that you've ever played before. Is there anything that you told yourself in preparations for games like this? And for him, it's the biggest game he's probably ever played in, even though it's a scrimmage here, but in front of a lot of people, and it's going to be on ESPN2, so there's pressure there. Did you tell yourself anything going into these? Did you, what was your mindset go to here? Something, maybe a song you played, I don't know, maybe a certain thing you told yourself before you would go into these games and kind of keep your mentals at ease?
Yeah, I think, the first game, obviously you'll have those jitters, just, it's a new environment, to your point, new level, your first time in that type of atmosphere. So you'll be a little bit nervous his first couple carries. But, typically for most players, once the game starts, you kind of get hit for the first time, you get through your first play, it just becomes football at that point. You can kind of get I don't say ignore the crowd, but the focus is so much on, execution, reading my keys, making the play that I'm supposed to make, that you don't really have the opportunity to get lost in all the atmosphere as much. I actually came in early, my I guess senior year of high school, and went through spring, and then I pulled my hamstring a couple of days before G-Day, so I missed it. But I'm sure he'll be fine. I mean, he's a high caliber guy. This is the opportunity that he's dreamed of, and so it's just time to go out there and do his thing. Yeah.
So Branson and Roderick, but I think Daijun Edwards has been limited, but I hope we get to see him. And he's another guy. I mean, he led beyond Kenny McIntosh, second in rushing last year. Really excited what he can do. We've talked about this on the show, how much we liked Daijun last year. I think last fall when you jumped on, we talked about him during the season, and he continued to have a great year after that. I think he was just starting to really come into his own there when we got a chance to talk, and then finished, second on the team in rushing and out of the backfield. Such a good route runner, and has great hands there to get upfield. Good first move right after the catch. And I think George is really going to utilize that going forward. And Mike Bobo, he uses weapons, right? And you were a part of that offense under Mike Bobo as well. But what's something that stands out to you that Mike Bobo does well, maybe your time at Georgia, you think he might be able to do now with this roster?
I'm actually super excited to see how much of that old offense that he actually brings back into it. I mean, we were in the eye, we had a fullback, we ran a lot of power, outside zone. These guys were typically out of the gun running inside zone and some sweeps and such. So I'll be interested to see how much of that he brings back. Obviously, Coach Bobo is a great coach in terms of identifying mismatches, influencing the defense with, play action and things of that nature. So, while I was there, we always had a lot of explosive plays just because we were able to influence people, get the, second level guys up into the line of scrimmage because of the run action, and then, hit them over top. So, I'm expecting us to what's it called, cheer up the band quite a bit this season. I don't think we'll see a step back at all. I have full faith in Coach Bobo. I'm excited to see him, back in that position for the Red and Black.
Yeah. And the talent he has is really incredible on the offensive line, even though you're missing these starters. I don't want to get caught up on missing starters here. During the offseason, it's so easy to do. We do it every year because it's just something to talk about, I feel like. But the talent there, especially on the offensive line, so deep, guys coming in. And I'm really excited to watch Amarius Mims. If he can step in and play well, it'd be great to see at left tackle. I think he has that in lockdown if he can continue and stay healthy and continue to get good reps in practice, which I've heard he's had. Tight end's an area that we need to be looking for. Brock Bowers, right? He's back, but Oscar Delp, a sophomore, he's going to be right there at tight end too. Can he do the thing? He just talked to Aaron Murray on the Players Lounge, and that was a great interview. I like what he said. Really the run blocking for them is the number one priority, and I like to hear that, especially as an SEC team that you want to chew the clock, control field position, and the running backs do that, right?
Yeah,
So
I would be very, very, very interested in seeing what happens in the tight end room, because Darnell was kind of, a freak of nature and something that you're not going to get another of, where, he was almost a 6 offensive lineman and provided so many mismatches. And whereas Delp, to me, is a hell of a player. I mean, even he flashed his freshman year, but he's very much like Brock, right? So it'll be interesting to see how they utilize both those guys, since they're similar body types and similar players.
Yeah, and checked out that interview on the Players Lounge. Oscar Delp said he was up 20 pounds from 225, so around 245 right now. I like that. Maybe a bit, harder to move in the run game, but it's going to be different, right? Because you said, Washington is that 6 offensive lineman on the field, so the blocking might not look the same. They might be using different areas of the offense and scheme to help him in the blocking game a little bit and free up the running backs. Let's talk G-Day stories real quick, because it's something special for, such a big football program, one of the marquee football programs in the country. And a spring game is something that everybody looks forward to. It's a first glimpse of that 2023 team that's going to be defending its second consecutive national title. What's your favorite part of G-Day, man? I know you were a part of a few of them. What was that favorite part for you?
If I'm being totally transparent here, the favorite part was when it was over, because we got a break. So for those of you that don't know, really the only break you get in the entirety of the year as a college athlete is right after, spring game. You get a little bit off in May to kind of, take a deep breath, chill out a little bit before summer work gets going. So my favorite part, and everybody's favorite part, whether I'll tell you that, is when it's over. I mean, spring is a grind. It's obviously extremely important to what your point is, kind of finding that, who the team is going to be, what players are going to step up, kind of, what is the overall kind of vibe of the team, if you will. But at the same time, you are going against your own guys every day. It's very physical, because you're not having to preserve your body for a real game, against another opponent. So spring is dog days, man. So I'm sure these guys are excited to wrap that thing on up.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I didn't know exactly what the players feel about it, I guess. But that's different than the fan base, I'm sure. Everybody wants to see these guys get after it, right?
Again,
and then
nobody will say it publicly, but I promise you, if you poll anonymously, guys watch spring ball, nobody likes spring ball.
That's why I call you the truth, Keith.
Yeah.
That's why I call you the truth. I like it, man. Tell them one more time where to find you on Saturday. Keith and a bunch of former Lettermen. It's going to be a great time. Got some autograph signing as well. I know you said food, drinks, and the works.
Absolutely. So we'll be at the Creature Comforts downtown Athens from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Like I said, it's a fun, family filled environment. We'll have the opportunity to meet some of the former dogs there, food, drinks, autograph signing, some cornhole, maybe even a little bit of beer pong. So we're excited to have a good day. And we encourage everybody to come out and check us out. It is free. All that we ask is that you go check out the new platform, create an account, set it up, and we'll enjoy hanging out with you on Saturday.
Awesome. And right after that, go to Sanford Stadium and check out, I didn't mention, the quarterback battle. These guys you talking about somebody that's not going to take any gas off the pedal with these quarterbacks, because they're fighting for that spot. So that's my last note. We'll get you out of here, Keith. Really appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you. Go Dogs as always.
Go Dogs.